Hey guys, welcome to Pistons Talk Podcast post-game show. Almost forgot to put my mic in front of my face so you guys can actually hear me. Uh, what a game. What a game, man. Seven wins in a row for the Detroit Pistons. Let's get into this post-game podcast. I'm sure you guys are hyped, excited. I know I am. Haven't had basketball like this in over 10 seasons. But let's break down these quarter notes. And then after I'm done doing that, we can open up the show to questions, comments, overall thoughts with you guys. And just vibe with this winning streak with the Pistons. So one thing that I do want to note. So Simone Fontecchio did not play. He did have an injury last night against the Hawks. It was a dislocation in his, I want to say his hand or his wrist area. I don't have the exact injury report in front of me right now, but there was no Simone tonight. So Ron Holland did see an extended minutes because of that, which happy for Ron. He deserves it. For the Clippers side, no Ben Simmons, which I haven't really been keeping up. I didn't know he was a Clipper, but Ben Simmons is part of the Clippers. No Kawhi Leonard. Not surprised by that. And no Norman Powell, one of their best offensive players tonight. So the Clippers were without three of their key guys. We were without one of our rotational guys in Simone Fontecchio. But the one thing with this game was I knew it was going to be a defensive battle because the Los Angeles Clippers are a very good defensive team. Chris Dunn, Nick Batum, Derek Jones Jr. Like they just have some good defensive guys that are kind of under the radar. They don't get talked about a whole lot, but that first quarter kind of gave you like throwback vibes of like late 90s, early 2000s. But the Clippers got into the paint. Our paint presence wasn't really there. James Harden is just such a good basketball player in terms of just getting the ball out of his hands, setting up his teammates in the painted area. And the Clippers just ate. When you got Zubac to a guy that loves to just play around the basket, and you have James Harden, it's going to be a really difficult duo to stop. And that's kind of what the Pistons struggled with a lot. And the turnovers. And the turnovers in the first quarter were mostly because a lot of the passes were a little bit sloppy and they weren't as crisp as they were, throughout the game. But, towards the end, the Pistons held the Clippers without scoring the basketball for 4 minutes. They did that actually twice in this game. So the defense for the Pistons, it kind of gives you, past championship team vibes. It's the way that they lock in defensively. They held the Clippers to 28% shooting in the first quarter and ended the first on a 10-0 run. Asar had a huge block helping Isaiah Stewart out on the weak side, and the Pistons take a lead of 23-17 to end the first quarter. Now, coming out of the second quarter, it was the Pistons' turn not to score for about 4 minutes. Clippers defense just kind of turned up, and there was that. Isaiah Stewart had an attempt on a block on Coffee, and he fell on his tailbone, went to the locker room to get it worked on. Obviously, it was a really nasty fall on his tailbone. We'll have to see if he's good to go with the Celtics on Wednesday, but he fell really hard. He did play throughout the game, so better to not sit on the tailbone, because if you guys have ever had a tailbone injury, sitting on it is literally the worst thing. It hurts like hell. I had one, and like I'm telling you, I couldn't sit on anything. But hope Stu's okay. Sar Thompson had a really weird injury. James Harden kind of went into him. It was like a fast transition play. And he was down for about a minute. The medical staff had to help him get back up, but he was okay. Thank goodness. It just seems like a game where we were losing players left and right, but both Asar and Isaiah Stewart finished the game and they were good to go. Pistons going a little stretch to end the second quarter to take a 2-point lead going into halftime, 51-49. Coming out of halftime, vets like Tobias and THJ really stepped up to hit shots during this game because it was a defensive battle. This wasn't a high scoring game like it was in Atlanta where they had 76 points at halftime. They only had 51 points at halftime with the Clippers tonight because the Clippers are a very good defensive team. But Cade Cunningham, we got to talk about him. Another game where he scored 30 points. He really took over offensively. He really got it going, scoring, assisting. Defense really stepped up for him. Asar, Jalen Duren, Isaiah Stewart. Tobias had some, key deflections as well. And the Pistons kind of go on a run in this third quarter to separate themselves from the Clippers, giving them a 10-point lead to end the third, 85-75. And going into the fourth, what I think was really crucial is the Clippers, I think, were just out of gas defensively for three-ish quarters. They were battling defensively. They were making this game very, very difficult for the Pistons. But the Pistons' youth, I think, benefited them. Ron Holland, Asar, Jalen Duren, Cade. The young guys got it going. Malik Beasley hit some timely threes. Dennis Schroeder just being that, backup point guard out there, really just kind of having a calming presence like Tobias does out there with the second unit. Um, Cade and Duren hit timely shots down the stretch. Asar's defense was just phenomenal tonight. He had multiple plays where you were probably just cussing and dropping F bombs. I know I was like, that dunk he had was crazy. A couple of the blocks that he had just hustling back. He almost hit his head on the backboard. He blocked the shot so damn well. But the defense held the Clippers scoreless again for 4 minutes, and the Clippers didn't even break 100 points tonight. The final score of this game, the Detroit Pistons 106, the LA Clippers 97. That extends the Pistons win streak to 7 straight games, most since 2014-15. Again, that was the SVG, Brandon Jennings, KCP, Andre Drummond led Pistons after they waived Josh Smith. So, yeah, it's been that long, you guys. It's been a minute since the Pistons have had a 7-game win streak, but just the way that they're playing basketball right now, this is just a very cohesive group. Um, Even if they're out of it, they find ways to win. They're finding new ways to scrap and battle for a full 48. It might not be pretty. It might not be the most appealing type of basketball, but just the way that they're winning games right now. Um, each game in this winning streak, I think we could point to something different of why they won the basketball game tonight. I think the reason why they won the basketball game tonight is they just had more energy on the second night of a back-to-back. Because the Clippers did play yesterday too against the Pacers. They just were the more aggressive and hungry team. But I do want to get into comments and questions and overall thoughts with you guys. This is the part of the podcast where I open up the show. Any of you guys want to drop a comment about tonight's game, a question maybe about a certain player, or a question, maybe a period throughout the game that you want to talk about, or just, random Detroit Pistons stuff you want to discuss. Drop them down if you're watching live right now on YouTube. I'm going to take a quick commercial break, and then after I come back, we will answer all your guys' comments and questions. So we will be right back, you guys. Okay, you guys, we're back. I want to get into the Q&A part of the podcast. So let's get into it. I want to go to Alex Jasper as the first comment of tonight's post-game show. And it says, I say this with all love. Does Asar have a little JaVale McGee in him? Feel like in the last 10 or so games, he's been two or three times he's made an insane play on D, but Shaq the fool on the fast break. Yeah, he did have a layup where I think he just kind of slipped his footing. I get what you're saying. Like he makes a really good defensive play, but it's just kind of like a mental error. Um, I mean, I guess you could say he's got a little bit of a JaVale McGee in there just for like some. I agree with you that there has been some plays where he makes a really good defensive play. He's out in transition, and either like tonight he just slipped, or there have been nights where maybe the ball goes out of bounds or he steps out of bounds. It happens to the best players in this league, but yeah, I haven't thought about JaVale McGee and Shaq in the Fool in quite some time. I mean, Shaq used to clown on him so bad that it got to the point where like JaVale McGee's mom had to call him out. Which shout out to JaVale McGee's mom. Shout out. Used to play in the WNBA. We have a comment from Cruza. Shout out to him. I always see him in these post game podcasts. Hope you're doing well, brother. Great display on team defense throughout the game by the Pistons. Dern was a monster on the boards tonight. Yeah, shout out to Dern. I think he had, I want to say 18 or 19 rebounds, if I do remember correctly. He just had a really good, impactful game. And I think what you're seeing is with Asar being out there, Duran can, play his game defensively and not have to worry about weak side or backdoor cuts as much because Asar covers so much ground and it's letting Duran, play in the painted area and protect the rim. There was a couple times where he went up for blocks and they were goaltends, but I'm not going to nitpick at that. The fact that he's going up and trying to contest shots, that's improvement because when we were talking the beginning of the season, he wasn't even doing that. He even said in a post game presser, I think a week ago, that in the beginning of the season, he was playing soft and he, held himself accountable. But you can tell Jalen Duren has just really stepped up his game. He's turned it up a notch. And you have to talk about him and give him his flowers and give him his respect because he's been playing really good ball. He's been passing the ball really well. They're giving him a little bit more freedom to run DHO sets, dribble handoff offense sets with Cade and Malik. And I love, like, he's kind of got like this bounce pass that he does with like Malik where he sets a screen and it gives Malik just enough time to, fire off a three, or whether it's Cade or THJ. Like, he's done a really good job of just handling DHO sets. And I think JB is giving him a little bit more freedom to bring the ball up the court. And I think it's kind of unlocked a little for him as well on the offensive side of the floor. But defensively, the effort's there. And I think we've talked about it before. Like Jalen Duren, a lot of people talk about K. They're talking about Ivy. Like I was saying, like if he locks in on both ends of the floor, he's probably the biggest X factor next to Asar on this team because you have a 21-year-old center that can get you what, like a good 14 and 12 a night, and block some shots, being a rim runner, uh, underrated passer. Like he's having a really good season after he's picked it up. So I'm really happy for him because I didn't want to come on every one of these post game podcasts and just say like he didn't do this right, he didn't do this right, his energy's low. Like I haven't had to do that in probably like 2 months because he's really picked it up. So happy for him, happy that he's locking in and being more consistent night in and night out. I have a comment from Jay Hart, and it reads, I'm not sure about everyone else, but I'm getting to the point with this team that no matter how many woes this team might have during a game, I still have confidence they will win. I'm in that space right now. I think what you just said, that's where I've been at for maybe the past 2 months, where when I watch this team, I never feel like they're completely out of a game. When I'm watching this team right now, I always feel like they'll give themselves a chance to at least make it competitive and win this basketball game. Now, in the month of February, I think what's changed from last month and even December is they've unlocked the SAR in terms of letting him bring the ball up the court and not just have him be a stationary corner three like previous Piston head coaches have done with forwards like Stanley Johnson, Sekou Boya, and I probably just gave you PTSD because I just brought up both of those forwards. But they're giving Asar the opportunity to expand his game, get more active, and I think you're seeing his confidence grow each and every game. And I'm with you. I'm to the point where when I'm watching a Pistons basketball game on a week to week basis, I feel like they have a good opportunity to win each and every game. I never feel like they're going to be out of it. Do they have the most talent night in and night out? No, but they're very well coached. They have calming veterans in Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr., Dennis Schroeder, and Malik Beasley that really calm these young guys down and, secure them and point them in the right direction to try to close out these games. These veterans are teaching these young guys like Cade, like Asar, like Duran, how to close out these basketball games. And that's something last year, even though the Pistons won 14 games, you could go back and watch last season. There was a lot of games last year where the Pistons were close, but they just couldn't close out the game. Like if they had a lead, they just couldn't figure out how to, keep their foot on the gas and close the game out. I think what you're seeing this season is these veterans are teaching these young guys how to execute a game for a full 48 minutes. And I think that's what you're basically saying, Jay Hart. Like, you're not really sure about everyone else, but I'm with you. I think the way they're playing basketball right now is they're playing smart, sound basketball at the end of the day. And you love to see it if you're a Detroit Piston fan because it's been pretty bad, if we're being honest. Like outside of this season, what we really haven't had a whole lot of teams to cheer for. I mean, you could go back to the, Stan Van Gundy 2015, 2016 team when they won 44 games. That was a, fun up and coming team, but the way that ended kind of got you Blake Griffin. You go 41 and 41, and then you had to rebuild shortly after. I think with this team, the future is bright. They have young guys that they can build around. They have veterans that mix really well, and this team feels a lot different from those previous two teams that I just mentioned. Want to get to Chuck Brewer? He has a comment. It's been a minute since I've watched Harden's game. He has fallen off. He has fallen way off. If tonight is a real sample of his current game, I think with James Harden, like you're not seeing like the Houston Rockets James Harden. Like these days, if you do catch some Clippers games, he can still shoot threes. He can still get into the painted area, get to the free throw line, but he's not just the demon he was in Houston when he was getting 40, 50 point triple doubles. He can still pass the ball with the best of them at this stage of his career. He's still a very good basketball player, but if we're going to say he's fallen off in that aspect, I can understand that, Chuck, but I think at this stage of his career, it's more of he's looking to facilitate rather than try to score 40 every night. But he's still a really good basketball player, and he had a little moment there at the end with Jalen Duran, just giving him words of encouragement. So really cool to see for Jalen Duran. I have a comment from Nick Gabber. Hope Dennis Schroeder is okay. He doesn't need to shoot threes for us necessarily, pass it or lay it up for us. I hope one day rest before the Celtics will help him and the rest of the team. Yeah, I know he tweaked his ankle, I want to say in the fourth quarter, but he did come back. So I think he's okay. You never really know. Just little tweak ankle, some ice. I think all these guys, will definitely get into the the rehab room, get ready for the Celtics because that's going to be a really, really big test. We got a 7-game winning streak coming in, and you have the defending champs coming to town. So it should be a good game. Got a comment from Johnny. Shout out to Pistons Jack, who was at the game tonight, had the opportunity to rev the game engine. Yeah, shout out to Jack, man. Like flying all the way from Australia. And then I think he went to New York, and then he's here for the rest of the week for all four Detroit Pistons games. So if you guys want to catch Pistons, Jack, he said he's going to be at all Pistons game. I'm happy for him, man. Like all the hard work that he's done, running his social media platform. We've had him on the podcast, and I'm proud of him, man. Like having a professional sports team that you root for reach out to you and acknowledge the hard work that you put in. Like I'm sure he's on cloud nine right now. I think someone said that Kate Cunningham greeted him after the game, and he got a game worn jersey, and they signed it for him. So really happy for Jack, man. Really am. He's a really good guy. Got a comment from Paper Chungs. Pistons win again. C2, the ethical hooper, the Lone Star. I love the ethical hooper comments that I see from Pistons Twitter, because so many people talk about Jalen Brunson and Trey Young as just like foul baiters, but Cade Cunningham's an ethical hooper because he doesn't bitch and whine for foul calls. I love these comments from the younger generation calling Cade an ethical hooper. I have a comment from Pistons Sicko. Um, love the Pistons sickos in these live streams. Can the Pistons beat the Celtics on Wednesday, or does the streak end at 7? Great question. I think it's doable for them to beat the Celtics. I will say that. I think what you're really gonna have to do is make sure you're not getting beat by guys like a Drew Holiday, just the way they pass the basketball, they're very unselfish. Kristaps Porzingis will be a very big challenge for Jalen Duren and the bigs. Even guys off their bench like Luke Cornett, who's 7 foot, have given the Pistons problems. Peyton Pritchard, Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum, like that team is so well coached. I think they can, give the Celtics a battle. I'm not really sure though if they can beat them. I mean, the Celtics have had the Pistons number for quite a bit. Not saying that I don't believe in this team. It's just um, I would probably say it's like a 50-50 shot right now, because the Pistons are playing much improved basketball since the last time they've played the Celtics. And the Celtics have had a couple of games where they've slipped up a little bit defensively, but I think it should be a good game. Not really sure though. I think Wednesday will be a very entertaining game. I'm surprised it's not a nationally televised game the way that the Pistons are winning. Maybe they'll actually get a flex. Maybe ESPN will come to town and Pistons get a flex game. I'm hoping, but I doubt it, because ESPN just wants to talk about Luka and the Lakers every day, and it's really annoying. Have a comment from the Ball Sagger. Oh God, that's actually a funny name. Schroeder's impact on this team is so visible. Plus 14 box plus minus in the box score. Yeah, like I was actually having conversations with people on Twitter. Someone had told me that, like, what does Dennis Schroeder actually do? And this was last week, when he was kind of struggling to score the basketball a little bit. But you look at the Hawks game that he had. You look what he did tonight. Like, he's such a calming presence out there. And no shot at Marcus Sasser. I think Marcus Sasser is a very good basketball player. I've been very consistent with you guys. I've always felt like Marcus Sasser, to me, isn't a point guard. He's more of an undersized two guard, just a guy that, give him the basketball if you need a basket, a bucket getter, if you will, like a Bones Highland or a Lou Williams type. But you're seeing what Dennis Schroeder can provide, a backup veteran point guard, something that we were just screaming for all season. Trajan got at the deadline, got it for basically nothing. And yeah, you're seeing like what he can bring, what he can provide for the Pistons, and I think that's exactly what this team needs, especially when we're heading into the playoffs. You're going to need a veteran, savvy, battle tested, been in the playoffs before, have been on really good playoff teams like the Hawks, like the Lakers. Like he's a good player. He's a really good player. And you never know. Pistons might decide to bring him back this summer on maybe a longer term or a short term deal. We'll have to wait and see. Have a comment from Red Baron. Sar was doing everything out there tonight. Really hope he stays healthy. Guys are starting to accumulate bumps and bruises. Dennis Schroeder had an ankle and guys are feeling the long season wear and tear. Yeah, it's the time of the year, Red Baron, where I do agree with you. Like your February 24th, as we're recording this podcast, home stretch of these last 20 or so games. I think everyone is at least playing with some sort of injury right now. I don't think anyone's 100% healthy. It's a long NBA season. You just had a back to back. But maybe you can get a day's rest, heal up any of those bumps and bruises that you did have and get some recovery and get ready for the Celtics. You got the Nuggets, and then you have the Brooklyn Nets to end the week. So, I mean, schedule is, pretty jam packed this week, but, hopefully Asar and Dennis are good to go. Do you know the last time we won 8 games in a row? I'm pretty sure I wanna say it was the 2014-15 season, but I could be wrong. Let me look it up, on StatMuse. When's the last time the Pistons won 8 games in a row? And let's see. And they don't even know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna come up here and act like I know. Maybe someone in the comments could say it. I want to say it was the 2014-15 season, but I could be wrong there. Got a comment from Just E313 asking about Jaden Ivey. Will Ivy be back and ready for the playoffs? So the timetable with him has not been discussed. We got an update a couple of weeks ago that he's still rehabbing. The good news is he's out of his walking boot. So no more walking boot for Jaden Ivey. I think a timetable for him would probably be late April, early May. So the Pistons would have to win a playoff series for Jaden Ivey to come back. And even when Jaden Ivey does come back, you guys, it's probably going to be on a very limited um, minute restriction. I honestly think it would be a minute restriction, maybe anywhere 5 to 15 minutes a game. I don't really think that JB and this coaching staff are, gonna go out there and basically say, okay, Jaden Ivey, you're playing 30 minutes a game. Because he just broke that fibula. He's still rehabbing. He was on the bench tonight, looked good, looked in good spirits, but I think for Jaden Ivey, you're probably looking late April, early May at the earliest for him. So it's definitely something that I think a lot of us are hopeful for. But if anyone can get back in a fast amount of time, it's Jaden Ivey. That kid's a workhorse. I got a comment from my former employer that actually fired me on Thanksgiving, Woodward Sports. Shout out. Sonic and Knuckle went crazy tonight. Easy. I don't know why they gave you login credentials, but log off, bro. Oh man. Oh man. Want to get to a couple more comments and questions with you guys. So Drew Thomas says chat GPT says 04 to 08 was the last time they won 8 in a row. Could be wrong since it's chat GPT. Um yeah, I don't know. Like if that's the case, maybe someone can look it up for me. I'm not sure. I want to say it was the 2014-15 season when they won 7 in a row, but I think their winning streak actually ended after that. But if it was the 04 to 08, the last time they won 8 in a row, and it's been a minute. It's honestly been a minute since the last time. The Pistons have strung 8 wins, 8 consecutive wins together. 04-05, yeah. So going the I 04-05, I think I was in middle school still. I think I was in middle school. Um, we didn't even miss Fontecchio tonight. He's having a down year. John Doe, I do agree with um that like Fontecchio has struggled a lot, and I've kind of attributed it to having foot surgery and not getting a full off season to prepare for this upcoming season because if you watch Fontecchio when we traded for him at the deadline, I honestly think he was a completely different player. He was running the floor. He loved to play the transition game. He was shooting threes. I just don't know. He's just having a really difficult season. I also think it's the role in which that JB Bickerstaff and the Pistons have him playing. Instead of catch and shoot, they're trying to have him put the ball on the floor. So um, we were like 10 and 0405. So I'll be 33 in 2 weeks. My math is off. I was probably like 11 or 12 or something like that. I was probably like in fifth or sixth grade. I don't, probably sixth grade if I do remember easy, but I don't know, man. I'm not good at math. So Grok says it was 0506 the last time the Pistons won 8 consecutive games. So you got Elon Musk and Google fighting with each other the last time the Pistons won 8 consecutive games. So yeah, it's been a minute. It's honestly been a minute, but I'm probably going to wrap up this podcast. But we will see you guys immediately after the Detroit Pistons are done playing the Boston Celtics on Wednesday. And as always, we are going to have a lot of Detroit Pistons content on this YouTube channel throughout the week. But hope you guys are having a great night. I'll talk to you guys on Wednesday. Again, final score for the Detroit Pistons. They defeat the LA Clippers 106-97, getting their 7th consecutive win. But until next time, you guys, take care, peace, and go Pistons.